Capricorn Deccan III. How do we obtain earthly power in today's world? Find out how the Four of Pentacles is your symbolic journey to answer that question. This card belongs to the last 10 days of Capricorn when the sun is the active ruler. So we're looking at what happens when the sun works within Saturn's rules. Spoiler alert, this is one of astrology's healthiest partnerships. Saturn, the planet of time and consequence, works directly with the sun, the planet of identity and vitality. In this decan, they operate as a single system. Saturn provides the frame, the sun animates it. Saturn rules the bones, the skeletal structure that bears weight, while the sun rules the heart and the life force that keeps the body upright. In Capricorn Deccan III, structure and routine become load-bearing. They are no longer optional supports or temporary scaffolding, but the very framework that holds responsibility, power, and longevity. What is built here must be able to carry real weight, weight that lasts through time, duty, and consequence. Saturn sets the rules and the limits, and the sun keeps things moving, visible, and alive. Together, they create predictability, rhythm, and the capacity to show up day after day without burning out. Here, both planets operate through the four frequency, order achieved through repetition, not effort, not motivation, just disciplined repetition. By this point in Capricorn season, the new structures and routines are already established. Saturn reinforces it. The system holds. It functions reliably. Authority is no longer something claimed or asserted. It is lived through routine and demonstrated in what gets done every single day. This is what earthly power looks like in Capricorn Deccan III. Responsibility carried consistently, authority exercised steadily, and leadership that endures because it is structurally sound. What if the next 10 days decide what actually sticks for the rest of the year? And what if the entire world feels this energy? Globally, Capricorn season moves us through a very clear sequence, culminating in the final 10 days of Capricorn, when patterns either lock in or fall away. Here's the energetic sequence of Capricorn, and the entire world feels it. Decan 1, December 22nd to December 30, shows us where Jupiterian excess went too far and brings about a call for change. Decan 2, January 1st through 10, responds with restriction and New Year's resolutions, using Mars to make the necessary cuts and changes. By the time we reach Capricorn Deccan III, the sun arrives to animate the four frequency, bringing warmth and authenticity into repetition. This is where routines stop being ideas and start becoming normal. This is why the tarot card associated with this energy is called earthly power. Psychologically, routines reduce decision fatigue. They stabilize the mood. They free mental energy. When habits are cemented, willpower is no longer constantly required. A routine becomes a system when it's repeated long enough to stop requiring willpower. Capricorn Deccan III reminds us that now time to pour the cement on the positive resolutions you've been building since New Year's Day, so they can carry the rest of the year. Next, we'll look at the core nature of people born here, or those with a rising sign in this decan. What is it like to be born with the gift of real-world authority? Look to those born here in Capricorn Deccan III, January 10th through 19th, or those with a rising sign in this decan. It is represented by the Four of Coins. Capricorn III is born with a practical sense for building a life that works. They focus their energy on systems that hold up over time, careers that grow steadily, finances that stay balanced, and routines that don't collapse under pressure. They think before they act and avoid unnecessary risk. They value fairness, keep their word, and take responsibility seriously. In relationships, they consistently show up, stay steady, and remain loyal. But Saturn has a shadow. When balance is lost, Saturn's strengths slowly harden and crystallizes into severity. Discipline becomes rigid rather than supportive, and dignity slips into pride. Thinking narrows, flexibility fades, and focus gradually turns into fixation. The lesson of Capricorn III is to discern when habit and routine can become a trap. This is where both healthy and unhealthy routines live. Capricorn's major tarot card, the Devil, reminds us that routines can become attachments, obsessions, or addictions. This is where the Devil shows up, not as something to fear, but as attachment. Capricorn 3 can become chained to routines that feel controlled and contained, yet quietly destroy the body and the life. The nightly drink that becomes non-negotiable. The coping habit repeated until it crystallized. The body and nervous system quietly absorb the cost of unhealthy habits. Routines that leave no room for flexibility or for others can be just as damaging. So if you are born here or have a rising sign here, choose wisely. You have a supreme ability to stick with whatever you choose. Above all else, practice discrimination in what you hold on to and what you let go. Why? Because Saturn rules consequence. Saturn rules what happens when the bill comes due. Always look to the sun to warm the dark places. The sun, which is an active participant in this decan, brings warmth, generosity, and most of all, awareness of which routines are too crystallized for the greater good. Capricorn 3 has two natural stabilizers: clear logic and innate steadiness. When right action is paired with tolerance and mercy is applied to the self as much as to others, the sun frequency can return. When balanced, Capricorn 3 builds structures that stop punishing and start supporting. Obsessive routines shifts from obstinacy into medicine. People born here, or who have a rising here, are the true salt of the earth personalities. Practical, ambitious, firmly grounded in reality, builders of lives and systems that endure. Kapak called this decan the throne. Chang called it money in the bank. And the 120-year-old Golden Dawn tradition named this slice of Capricorn as the Lord of Earthly Power. Next, we will look at notable birthdays that combine the Sun and Saturn in Capricorn Deccan III. Notable birthdays: Capricorn Deccan III. How did Betty White sustain decades of discipline without ever losing her joy? That question sits at the heart of Capricorn III, the final stretch of Capricorn season, January 10th through 19. This is the terrain where discipline is repeated long enough for effort to crystallize into something powerful and real. Betty White's career was not built on flashes of fame or sudden breakthroughs. It was built on routine, professionalism, and the simple act of showing up, day after day, decade after decade. This is Saturn in its most mature expression: consistency and endurance across time. What made her extraordinary, however, was that the structure never extinguished her warmth. The sun's joy and humor remained fully alive. Now consider Martin Luther King Jr., born January 15th. His authority came from disciplined repetition, organizing, marching, writing, negotiating, and returning again and again to the same moral ground. Yet his presence was unmistakably solar. Through sustained, repeatable campaigns, he demonstrated that the sun shines on everyone equally. Equal access to jobs, equal protection under the law, equal safety, and equal dignity. Now compare that with Jack London, born January 12th. Two defining Saturnian pressures shaped him early: being pushed into child labor at a young age, and later entering the Klondike Gold Rush and returning physically depleted and ill. As a writer, London treated writing itself as labor. He kept strict schedules, produced at industrial speed, and revised through repetition rather than inspiration. What that endurance produced was tangible: best-selling books, public recognition, and significant financial success. London became one of the most widely read and highest-paid writers of his time. Other notable Capricorn 3 figures include Jim Carrey, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, Edgar Allan Poe, and Janis Joplin. Together, they reveal the central lesson of Capricorn 3. Routines are not easy, structure is heavy. These notable personalities also demonstrate both mastery and risk of obsession. Joplin and Poe both hold a clear shadow, the devil card side of Saturn: attachment. When routines harden without awareness, discipline can crystallize into bondage rather than strength. In the lives of Edgar Allan Poe and Janis Joplin, we see how Saturnian pressure, numbed through alcohol and drugs, produced real consequences. In Joplin's case, the absence of stabilizing routines and a deep attachment to substances led to classic Saturn outcomes: physical depletion, escalating dependency, and early death. Saturn did not punish excess, it enforced the cost of repetition. The counter-principle is simple: the sun must want the right things. Routines must be built in service of life, meaning, and shared good, not control, escape, or excess. Capricorn 3 teaches that real-world power is not fast or flashy. It is built slowly through repetition, integrity, and balance. And when right choices are made, it builds power in the material world. Next, we'll look at how the Four of Coins functions as advice when it comes up in a reading. How do you read the Four of Coins when pulled in a tarot card read? First, it's about order and control. Practical advice would be to create a routine and stop renegotiating it. Do the same workout on the same days. Send the same amount to savings automatically. Eat, sleep, work, and rest on a schedule that doesn't depend on mood. Protect your time and energy by saying no to anything that disrupts the system. You're not being rigid, you're building reliability. Stability comes from repetition, not motivation. Drawing this card advises to stick with what works. It is the perfect example of the old gambler adage that says, know when to hold 'em. Consistency is the point. If you've pulled the Four of Coins reversed, the advice changes. Your system isn't holding. Either you're clinging too tightly to rules that no longer fit, or you've lost the structure altogether and things are slipping. If you're hoarding, loosen what's become compulsive. If things are chaotic, rebuild the routine immediately. Don't add more goals. Restore order first. This card reversed isn't asking you to grow or expand. It's asking you to stabilize. And as a yes-no answer, the guidance is simple. Yes, if you can keep the routine. No, if you can't. Next, we move into the 3 phases of Aquarius season, beginning January 20th, where the systems we carefully created and maintained in Capricorn season become subject to the tests of disruption and innovation.